Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into my podcast once again. When I tell you my last podcast episode set fire, and I don't know if I was expecting that. I knew it would ruffle feathers, but people definitely responded quite a bit. I got a lot of feedback. Most of it was positive, and I thank those folks and also the folks that had less than positive feedback. I thank you for responding. People who absolutely did not agree with me saying that mental illness is not demonic. Um, and then there were the overwhelming majority that agreed with what I said. And, like I said before, everybody is coming to the table with their own thought process of things. But I have to go with science as well as common sense. And that's what I am using to come to a lot of conclusions. And experience is also in there as well. But I promised that this would be a three-parter about mental health and mental illness in general. And, just on the personal side, I definitely have had people close to me who have dealt with anxiety. They have dealt with paranoia. They have dealt with depression, bipolar, schizophrenia. There's been a myriad of things. And I tell you, it is very, very tough. I'm speaking to people who are dealing with mental illness. You have to, I realize that you are going through a tough climb, especially if you're newly diagnosed or you went for a long period of time without being diagnosed and probably not diagnosed until your adult years. I understand that can be extremely tough. Also understand that the people around you who are trying to help, who have misunderstood you, and I'm not talking from an abuse standpoint. I'm talking about genuinely had no idea, what was happening with you. It wasn't to be taken personally at all. I know that whether it was personal or not, um, it wasn't on purpose, for the most part. I know that there are people that are just cruel when they'll take people's ailments or weaknesses or whatever it is that they feel is not just so, and they will take it and use it against you. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the folks that just didn't understand what was happening. Definitely, if you have been diagnosed, sit and talk with the people that you truly have always trusted and looked up to and felt comfortable with and felt safe with, and really explain to them what's happening with you, especially if they're not familiar with your diagnosis, because it is very, very tough to discern sometimes when you don't know about something. People tend to fear what they don't know. So if you have a diagnosis, don't hide it. If it's your sister, if it's your brother, whoever it is that you need to talk to explain, like, hey, this is what's going on. Even if it's to send them a pamphlet that you got from your therapist, or even ask them if it's that level of importance to you, ask them to come to a therapy session with you so that you can be in the therapy session with the therapist, and the therapist can kind of be a buffer, for you to be able to explain what you're dealing with. Because I think a lot of people don't understand chemical imbalances in the brain. We have all these different parts of the brain, and please don't quiz me on this right now, but there's different parts of the brain that control different outputs that our body puts out. Parts of our brain regulate your heart. Parts of your brain, send out, what is it? So I'm trying to think of the word, like, send out pain sensors and things like that. I don't know all of the medical terms, but you guys know what I mean. So the brain is like, it's like the CPU, of your body. Everything kind of stems from that. So all of the regulations and things that go on in your body stem from, for the most part, your brain. And when there's an imbalance, when there is something that's off kilter or whatever's happening, then you start to get manifestations sometimes of sickness and mental health issues and things of that nature. And sometimes it's worth sitting down with your loved ones and explaining what's actually happening when you are having it could be a breakdown, it could be a manic episode, whatever it is. When you are out of that, do yourself the favor and really talk to your loved ones and explain what is happening to you when those episodes occur. Because people are not going to understand. People that are dealing with mental illness often get brushed off as overly sensitive, or they're acting crazy, or, whatever the case may be. And sometimes it absolutely could be some type of mental illness. Now, we all go through angry times and, depressed times and things like that. But when these things persist consistently, that's when we need to get help. Because if you're in that depressed funk, we're not talking about, a family member passed away, and obviously that affects people, in different ways. But we're talking about things that tend to persist over time. You need to talk to a therapist about it to make sure that this is not something that is chronically, progressively happening within you. But I did get a lot of people with pushback saying that mental illness, it's just so hard for me to really fathom that people believe that mental illness is demonic. We know that sickness comes from the devil, or however you want to say it, the enemy, however you choose to describe. But a chemical imbalance, whatever that is, we've all been sick before. That doesn't mean the devil made you sick, and I know that there are people that walk around and say these things. I get it, trust me. I have family members who speak this way. Everything is not the devil. Sometimes it's just life. Somebody's sick and they sneeze and they touch the same thing that you touched and you're getting sick. Does that mean the devil set it up for you to be sick and all that? Come on, y'all. We got to start using common sense. You know what I mean? The time that we really started using common sense, when the pandemic first hit and everybody was washing their hands until their skin was coming off, we were the least sick. We were the least, the least amount of germs was going around because everybody was washing their hands. You've been told to wash your hands since you were a child, but we really just don't do it the way that we should. As soon as we started washing our hands and being more vigilant about covering our mouths when we cough or sneeze or all these other things, we were the most... outside of the actual COVID, we were the most, healthy people. Nobody was getting colds the way that they were before, it was really crazy. And I'm talking outside of COVID sickness. Because all of that stuff just started to drop down because we were being vigilant about taking care of what we should be taking care of on a regular basis. So why can't we do that all the time? You know what I'm saying? We should be taking care of ourselves all the time. So if you see something that is happening with you that is chronically going on with you, you need to go take care of it. Go speak to a doctor. Talk to a therapist. Google is your friend and it's free. You're feeling crisis, dial 988. You can talk to them on the phone and you can text them. Get the help that you need because mental health is wealth. I cannot say it enough. And if you are unsure about how mental illness works, or, I don't believe in this and I don't believe in that, I implore you, Google. There are hundreds of thousands of medical journals. It's science. Disease, imbalances. Disease is literally, it tells you in the word, it is dis-ease, something that's uneasy, undone. But that doesn't mean that you can't address it. Is everything curable? Maybe somewhere in this world it is. You know what I mean? But get the help. And your mental health will dictate a lot of other things in your life as well. You start dealing with your mental health issues, that are going on, you will start to see a lot of other things start to, clear up in your life. You will get clarity. You will have more focus. It's daunting in the beginning because those first few sessions are tough and you're going to want to quit. But don't quit, because when it feels the toughest is when the breakthrough is coming on the other side. So don't go to the first 3 or 4 sessions and say, I don't want to do this. Stick with it. If that therapist doesn't seem like they get you or, whatever, you can change therapists however you want. Just like you don't like a certain doctor, you change doctors. You change dentists, whatever. Do the same thing. You don't like a certain food, you don't buy it anymore. If there's a soap you used to buy starts breaking out your skin, what do? You stop buying it and you get something else. You can do that with therapy as well. Okay? But when you get into that therapist's office, be honest and put it all on the table and really study yourself and say, okay, let me really unpack and study all of the things that have led me to this point. And I guarantee you breakthrough is on the other side. Prayer works too. Let's not throw prayer out the window. Prayer works too. But therapy goes hand in hand. It really does. And I cannot convince those people. I'm going to say it again, and I'm standing on business when I say it. Mental illness is not demonic. And the quicker that we truly realize this, the quicker that people educate themselves, the quicker that we will be able to help ourselves and also loved ones and people around us that may be suffering. Because of your thought process like that, there may be somebody in your life that is fearful to even open up about what they're dealing with. And we don't want people to feel closed off. We want people to be able to feel like they have a safe place, especially when they're dealing with things that have to do with the mind. The mind is very powerful for positive things and also for negative things. But we need to create these safe spaces for people who are suffering to be able to go and just unload. So I cannot convince people, what mental illness is about and all of that. But I truly, truly hope that you will research. When next time you go to your doctor, your primary care physician, whatever it is, sit down and ask them questions. And I promise you, they will lead you in the direction of some powerful knowledge that will be so helpful to somebody in your life. I appreciate all the feedback. I think that it was a great, podcast to put out there. And I got a lot of, like I said, I got overwhelmingly positive feedback, but there was that little stream of negative feedback. And again, I hope those people will do their research on this, and I hope that they will circle back. I'm not the type of person to be like, well, you don't believe what I believe, so get out of here. I'm not that person. I love circling back with folks, and they say, wow, I didn't see it that way, or teach me something. But this is something that I know for sure. And I wanted to make sure that I shared it openly, so that even if you just wanted to know where I stood on the subject matter, it's a very important subject matter to me. It's very personal to me because there's so many people close to me who have been through things because they were struggling with their mental health. And I am always going to be an advocate for people who have lost their way, who are searching, feel lost, or whatever it is. I'm always going to be an advocate for them. So, again, thank you so much for all the feedback. I will be back in July soon. We're the last day of June, so I will be doing another podcast the first week of July. Gonna take the next few days to just get some work done and also enjoy the holiday weekend. And even if you don't celebrate 4th of July, it's still a time to gather with family. The kids are out of school, well, depending on where you live, but I'm in the Northeast, so the kiddies are now out of school, and so enjoy your families and pay attention to people around you. And if they're struggling, and sometimes they may not bring it up, but you can pull them to the side and say, are you okay? Are you okay? Do you want to talk? Sometimes that's all that people need, to be able to just unload. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Again, I will be back in about a week or so. Enjoy your holiday, and we'll talk soon. Bye.